Welcome to the Connection Podcast. I am Lauren Dry, also known as the Connection Catalyst. Connection and this podcast for me is personal. As a driven professional, I found myself an expert in all things work and business, but it was at home that I really needed clarity and ease. After finally finding it one marriage breakdown and one marriage reset later, and finally discovering what really works to have connection in modern relationships, using science, simplicity, and soul, our signature program, Rise into Regulation, was born. That's giving so many others in modern, driven relationships back clarity and ease for good. On the podcast today, we're going to dive deep together on all things relationships, business, identity, and leadership. And clarity and ease is at the heart of it all. And we are so happy to be with you so that you can have what you need in connection, mind, body, and soul too. Welcome to a casual episode today on the Connection Podcast. I have recently turned 40, and something that is on my mind and its relation to connection is vanity. So if you're a man and this doesn't interest you, please feel free to skip on to another episode. I want to hang out and talk about what vanity means, what our relationship with vanity means, and its relationship to other people, what it means for attraction even to our own selves, and what that means for how we show up in relationships, but also the difference between what is empowerment and having the power and the ability to choose how we show up, how we're vain, and versus what is anti-feminist and distracting, and how does having a focus on your appearance distract you from having deeper connection and making sure it's authentic? All of those tricky questions, they're definitely something that I'm playing around with right now. And I'll tell you why. Over the last decade, I've definitely prided myself on being someone who is as natural as possible. I have been Botox free for at least a decade. I don't have any judgment, no thoughts on whether you want to go that route with other enhancements, and I'm not ruling it out in the future. But turning 40 and really challenging myself around this idea that aging naturally is who I am and who I always want to be, it's uncomfortable. In an ideal world, I see myself as Pamela Anderson at her peak, where she's showing up to the red carpets, taking everyone off guard, putting women decades younger than her to shame, no makeup, apparently not obvious enhancements or medical help. Not to say that that's not happening, but that's definitely the impression. So if I'm honest, aesthetically, that's the aim, to age gracefully and go off into the good night, really appreciating my age and appreciating beauty at any age without feeling the need to be any younger than I am. But girl, or guy, if you're listening, I am still vain. And I have been every hair color under the sun. I have experimented with all kinds of aesthetics as I was growing up. And I think I would be lying if I said to you that I didn't notice the difference between how I was treated or how confident I felt in myself when I was well presented versus when I didn't have a look that flattered me or wasn't showing up as my best put together self. And there's one memory that comes to me around this. For a short period of time, I was working for a small mining company. And although I have worked in the mining industry in different areas and positions in the past, for this mining company, for a short period of time, I did have to fly in and out of remote mine sites and wear those high-vis outfits, the bright yellows with the reflective strips. And I remember once showing up to a grocery store in this outfit and not expecting to experience any difference in how I was treated versus to when I would show up to a grocery shop in a suit or in my casual clothes. This was well before kids. I was relatively young, let's say early 20s at the time. But I vividly remember, but I had an interaction with two women in the shopping center. One of them was an older woman who I accidentally bumped my trolley into hers or vice versa. Can't remember the details. And I behaved as I normally would, expecting that I would be treated with respect and, oh, no worries, and bump and move on. I am not exaggerating when I say that the response to my apology was received like a lead balloon. I was yelled at, I was sworn at, and the lady, who was quite a bit older, just walked off without a second glance. And this was shocking to me. And look, there may be some privilege involved for where I live, for how I look, my ethnicity, all sorts of things. I'm not going to discount that. But that combined with a couple of interactions that day, just in a grocery store with relative strangers, gave me a reality check that although I suspected in the past that maybe you could be treated a little bit differently if you weren't well put together, this really validated that for me around if you do look rough. And I didn't think I looked that rough. I thought, a high-vis outfit really communicated nothing else than a profession. But that combined with probably looking a little bit younger than I was, maybe being the end of the day, and maybe looking in my perspective a little bit rougher than I normally would. Statistically speaking, the amount of rude, disrespectful, dismissive people that I bumped into because I perhaps was not as put together as I normally would be was notable. And so I think that we can talk about how not caring about how you look or not feeling like you need to go along with society. We can say that those are noble ideas and noble ideals, but in reality, in the day-to-day world, what we don't understand is that the way we present ourselves really can unconsciously trigger perceptions in other people that do affect how you were treated. And I'm a pretty independent, relatively confident person, I would say. But being treated differently just based on what I was wearing and how I looked, and as far as I knew that day, I don't think I even looked that, let's say, rough. But I definitely think I presented as someone that normally I don't present as, and I was treated accordingly. So I want to apologize to anyone who, particularly women who wear high vis day to day and maybe don't have the opportunity or the practical ability to dress in a way that presents that they do have privileges of a certain sort. Because just from what I was wearing and how I looked that day, the way I was treated was hugely different to what I'm used to. And I know that there are people listening to this who are going to take this to a whole other level, and we absolutely can have a conversation about privilege in general due to gender or race or all sorts of things. But because this podcast is specifically about vanity, I just want to touch on that and the nuance around how do we have this conversation about being well presented, well put together, proud of how you show up visually or how you feel about yourself on an attraction level. Like, do you feel attractive for your own self? Not necessarily do you feel attractive to other people, versus not feeling like who you are is determined by what you look like. And I'm feeling challenged by that right now because in my mind, in my ideals, I do want to age gracefully and go off into the good night, glowing from within and not really needing to fall down too deep a dark of a rabbit hole when it comes to beauty treatments and getting a little help here and there. But on a logical perspective, I mean, my specialty is pattern recognition. I am aware that if I go down this path, then I am really choosing to be treated as time goes on differently than what I'm used to. Not even necessarily from a beauty standard, but just demographically moving into a different stage of life and trying to figure out what my level of comfort and confidence is within that. Now, give me a little bit of rope here. I do like to think that I look younger than I do. I know we all do. So I'm not feeling particularly torn one way or another as to whether I need to make a stand and say whether I should be absolutely natural and never touch any kind of beauty treatments as long as I live. And I'm equally not signing up for, okay, as time goes on, this is definitely what's going to happen and it's inevitable. In order to feel confident within myself, I'm going to have to accept that certain types of help, so to speak, aren't going to be tempting, very, very tempting, and that I might not go down that route either. But something that is really interesting about women in relationships, especially when it comes to intimacy, you would have heard this phrase before: intimacy and feeling that readiness to be physically intimate in a relationship, the driver for that for men and women is very different. And when you look at it on a biological level, women, interestingly enough, feel most comfortable with intimacy and feeling like intimacy is possible when they feel attractive, not necessarily to a certain person or to anyone else other than their husband, but attractive themselves. Do I find myself attractive? Irrelevant of what anyone else thinks. And I do make jokes regularly about one of my motivations when I get to the gym. Hacking one of my internal programs actually involves me hacking an aspect of my vanity by filling my wardrobe with matching gym outfits. It's just something that motivates me. When I feel good, when I feel put together, then I feel motivated to go and work out at the gym. Is that something I should do or not? Irrelevant. It is something that motivates me. So when it comes to connection intimately with my husband, connection with others, and how I'm treated, I am definitely in that gray zone of exploring at the moment how vanity falls into that and where I want to sit in the future between making conscious choices around beauty, around vanity, in terms of what that means for me versus what that means for my connections, and making sure I'm not making those decisions just so that I can fit in or feel more comfortable for the sake of feeling comfortable, even if it might go against some of my previously stated ideas and ideals around natural health and support. I'm definitely in the middle right now, and I really would love to hear where you're sitting and how you feel about vanity and your relationship with vanity right now, and whether you feel you're treated differently, just in general, not necessarily from the people that you know and you're close to, when you are put together versus when you are maybe feeling a little bit more rough. Do you not notice a difference? Do you notice a difference? As someone who's an expert in the unconscious mind, something I have used very often in my work and personally is understanding these hidden patterns and hacking these unconscious patterns in our mind, and to most importantly benefit our relationships with ourselves without it feeling like such hard work. And so when I look at vanity and how I use my relationship with vanity, for example, to motivate myself to go to the gym using outfits that match, I'm not in a position where I'm demonizing vanity, saying it's a bad thing. And I'm also not in a position where I'm shouting from the rooftops either. If you need this beauty enhancement, if you need to feel good about yourself, you should go buy this thing. You should go do this thing. You should go get that little bit of help from a beauty professional. I'm also aware that I'm someone who I love my husband. I adore my husband. I love who he is inside and out. And I'm aware that I'm still in a stage in life where I am very much attracted to him, what he looks like, how he takes care of himself. And there is an unfairness to that. As a man, as he gets older, he seems to only get better with age. I don't think Jason Statham has anything on my husband. He's had that comparison once before and I loved it. So equally, I do love the idea of still being desired by my husband as well, no, whether I'm 40 or 80. So where I'm at the moment is I have an appreciation for vanity and how having a healthy relationship with vanity can help benefit your intimate relationships if you can hack it. And the way I do at the moment is I hack my own vanity to motivate me to go to the gym, as well as health. One of my greatest motivators to get to the gym is have strong muscle mass and bone density and to be healthy and have really great blood flow and nourishment of my whole system because I understand how that supports your brain health as well. But hacking my vanity to help me get to the gym, as well as hacking my vanity to continue to be another aspect of maintaining intimacy in my relationship. I know that when I feel good about myself, just on a biological level as a woman, it adds to my capacity to maintain that intimate relationship with my husband as well. It's just biology for women. And also, interestingly, for my line of work, being in front of the camera every day, I know with vanity, when I feel good, I want to show up. I want to do my work. I want to help people. And I feel confident and comfortable doing that without picking myself apart if I do feel good about myself. So I am at a stage in life where I think I have healthy awareness of how vanity plays into connection in my life without it overtaking it. But I am really curious about where you're at with that at the moment, whether you think vanity in the connection space is going too far. I definitely can see elements in social media, and I know the slippery slope of social media, how it can trick us into thinking that beauty is an essential component to connection, connecting online, connecting in intimate relationships. And I do think that there is a slide happening that has been happening for hundreds of years where our value and our worth can really become tied into whether we are meeting a certain beauty standard, whether it's our weight, whether it's our skin, whether it's our lips, our boobs, our bum, the whole thing. And so whenever I'm noticing that there are patterns that can, without conscious attention, take you away from conscious choice and decisions, I always like to pause on them and take my time. I know my daughter is watching and I want to behave and show up in a way that celebrates who she is. And also, she hit a stage in life where there was something that became really important to her that she really felt would put her mind at ease. As someone who has gotten help in the past, who am I to stand in her way? And that's really hard to talk about. That's really hard to explore. You know, she's perfect in my eyes, absolutely magical in every way. And so I think creating a place to have these healthy conversations to try and untangle what is vanity and how can we hack elements of vanity to improve our connection, most importantly with ourselves, versus what is programming and the unconscious pull away from our own selves and away from our own relationship with our body that creates toxicity down the line and an erosion of our relationship with self because we're trying to meet an ideal that can never be met. So, the way that I'm towing that line at the moment is a couple of ways. When I am trying to support myself and fall into my vanity, I challenge myself with questions like, what am I doing this for? Is this going to enhance my life and the quality of my life? Or am I doing this to meet an ideal? For example, if you're a blonde with curly hair, you're going to hate this. But if you have darker hair and you do have curly hair and you know how hard it is to maintain, and if you do like having straight hair, you're going to love this tip. Something that used to take me a lot of time was doing my hair every morning before I get out of the house, being presentable. And for some people, that's not a problem. But for me, I found it would just add to my day. So I looked into and found out about something called nanoplasty, which is like a treatment for your hair. It smooths it out, makes it really easy to manage. The first time I did it, though, I was blonde and it turned my hair bright green. That was an absolute nightmare. So if you see a massive jump in my content from blonde to brunette, that's exclusively why. Because my hair turned green and the only way to save it was to go brunette for a period of time. And I haven't gone back yet. I'm at a stage where I could move back to blonde, but I'm happy here now, I think. I have continued to do it since then, and I think if you are a blonde, you should know it will change your hair color. I don't think it's gonna turn it green. I just had a very, very bad experience. But if you are very, very attached to the color of your hair, be careful with nanoplasty. It will shift it. I think if you have a good hairdresser, they can help you, but not if you're a bright blonde. And I'm also on a journey to try and really have a better relationship with the quality of my skin so that I don't have to wear makeup so much. That saves me time in the morning. But that line that I'm dancing at the moment, I think comes down to aging. My face does move. I do have smile lines. I do have frown lines. I know the quality of my skin will continue to change along that track as I get older. And I want to embrace it. I don't want to lock myself into a trap where I'm only able to validate myself and feel secure with myself if I never touch my wrinkles or in any way, shape, or form. But I want to challenge myself. I want to continue to challenge myself around the decisions that I make that are connected to vanity. Are those decisions to help improve the quality of my life, or are those decisions being made to fit in? And if it does get to a stage where my age does show and I am treated differently, what I hope to be is someone who embraces that and celebrates that stage of my life. And I'm trying to surround myself with people and even content that really does do that. Will I be as brave as someone who can turn their hair gray and, and embrace all of their wrinkles and not worry about it? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And I am surrounded by a full spectrum of people who choose beauty decisions, from all varieties of natural to very helped. So I think when it comes to vanity, the same way we examine all of our values, it's really, really important to regularly check ourselves with our decisions and just make sure that we're making decisions around anything from vanity to health to parenting to social life, that we're regularly having these checks around, am I making these decisions from a place of protection, safety in order to fit in, or am I consciously making choices that align with my identity and a purpose that lines up with my values and my identity and how I want to live my life? I think there's a lot to be said for taking care of yourself and taking pride in your appearance and how you show up in the world. But I definitely don't think that we need to follow the leader either. And I think that that line is different for everyone, and as long as we're making that conscious choice about what that line is for us and what that means for us at each stage in our life, I think exploring vanity is a really, really healthy thing to do. And it can benefit our relationships intimately and benefit our relationships with ourselves and can benefit our health. And I think you're going to have to stay tuned around where I land for this. I really like that I'm in the middle space right now and exploring what vanity means for me. And I think I'm really happy with the decisions that I'm making around any of that. Although, come back to me when I figured out hormonal breakouts as a 40-year-old whose skin can occasionally behave like a teenager's. But so far, so good. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how my relationship with that expands, and you can clock me on that according to the development of my wrinkles. So to be continued. Thanks so much for being here for a little bit more of a casual chat. And I really do want to hear from you about how you feel about vanity and where you've landed with that, and whether you feel like you have a healthy relationship with vanity and whether it's benefiting your life or whether you feel trapped by it. And most importantly, how you feel about yourself in relation to vanity and whether you are celebrating who you are inside and out. Because I think that that's the highest goal when we do feel really good about ourselves inside and out, it shows and it shines. And I don't think that we have to fit a mold in order to reflect that. Maybe if I had a little bit more confidence when I was younger, showing up in that high-vis outfit in the shopping center, I might not have been so much of an easy target. I have no idea. But it definitely is something that gave me cause for reflection around the difference between taking pride in your appearance versus going too far. And I really like the line that I found at the moment. And if I could go back and tell anything to my younger self walking around in high vis in the shopping center, it would probably just be put your shoulders back and watch where you're putting your trolley, and that everyone has bad days. Thanks for being here on the Connection podcast. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please subscribe and follow along for more. But most importantly, come on over to Instagram and chat. I would love to continue the conversation and hear your thoughts. And I'll see you soon. Big love.